So it's not about you analyzing. Are you great? Okay. It's not about you analyzing this poem. This is all about this book called Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. So, the very first thing when you open this book, after all the title pages and its content, is this poem. So it almost serves as an introduction because then it's straight into the book. So, if this is the poem that this author chose to introduce her entire book, what kind of ideas might this book have in it?
A little girl's dreams.
A little girl's dreams.
Maybe
What else?
she ran out of feeling and had a bare moment in her life.
Maybe.
Where she didn't have any dreams.
A lot of bare moments if there's a lot of book. Take a look at this book. Go ahead and open it up and tell me if you notice anything that's special about its structure. Anything that maybe you have seen before, anything that... Go ahead and get to the middle of it. Look at the text. What's special about the way that it's arranged?
It's in stanzas.
It's in stanzas. What uses stanzas?
A poem.
Like a poem. Have you learned about free verse poetry?
No.
So this is an example of free verse poetry, this book here. Start reading from anywhere in the book. Aloud.
Because we have a right, my grandfather tells us, we are sitting at his feet, and the story tonight is why people are marching all over the South.
Great. So what do you notice about that that's not like poems that you've read before?
It makes sense.
It makes sense. One reason that it probably makes more sense to you is because, do you know the difference between things that are literal and things that are figurative?
Yes.
Great. So most novels have a lot of things that are literal. Johnny went to the store. Well, Johnny went to the store. It doesn't mean that Johnny went to some part of his soul and that represents the store. No, Johnny went to the store. Whereas Hold Fast to Dreams is a structured poem with a rhyme scheme and uses personification and metaphors and all those great poem things. And it's a structured poem. And it's all figurative language, right? He's not really talking about a barren field. He's using that as a metaphor. Life is a barren field. So with this poem that's written in free verse poetry, it's about we find the balance between things that are literal and things that are figurative. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. So this next activity, I have these little cards, and really I would have 4 different groups of 2 at least or more, and they would each get a card and they would discuss it and then they'd switch. But for these purposes, Lena, choose your card. You'll eventually get all of them, but whichever one you'd like to do first, and read it aloud for me.
They say the city is a place where diamonds speckle the sidewalks. Money falls from the sky.
So that is a chosen sentence or phrase from this book. So read it one more time, and when you're reading it, think about what could be literal in it and what's figurative, and what predictions you can make about this book, knowing that that sentence is in there and knowing that it represents something big about the book. And everyone would be discussing, and it would last for 10 minutes, and they'd all duck.
Okay, so do I tell you what's figurative?
Yeah. Talk it out.
They
As
say-
if now I'm your group member.
Okay. I think what's figurative is the city is a place where diamonds speckle the sidewalk.
Right.
That's figurative.
And what does it mean? What
It's
do you
not real.
Exactly, it's not real. So why would the author even say that it's not real?
As a metaphor to spark your interest.
To spark your interest. It's interesting and it makes you think about it. So now that you're interested and you want to think about that phrase, what does it mean? Where diamonds sparkle the sidewalks.
It's a great city.
It's a great city. What's the next sentence?
Where money falls from the sky.
So what about the city? How does this author view the city?
It's cheap.
It's cheap, maybe. She might think that, but I personally, if I was your group member, I would say, I would argue that I don't think that she thinks it's cheap, because then she probably wouldn't say diamonds, right? Because
Yeah.
and that's just my personal view.
I
Maybe you
agree.
see diamond, okay, or maybe maybe you disagree, and that's okay too. So I think that she really puts the city in light of a fantasy. You know, she's I can't think of the right word, but she's putting it up there in her dreams. You know, she's really dreaming about it, I think. And I think that when I read that sentence, I assume that the book might be about a girl who wants to go to the city. She lives in a rural town now, maybe a lot like where you're from, with chickens in the backyard, and she just dreams of going to New York, kind of thing. So that's what I would assume about this book from that sentence. So now take another one and do it all alone, and make a prediction about the book from that phrase. Go ahead and read it aloud.
In the stores downtown, we're always followed around just because we're born.
Just because we're
brown.
Brown. It's important.
Oh, okay.
So once you have some ideas, start talking it through.
We're always followed around means that you're followed. I think that's a figure of speech there.
Right. Yeah, they're literally followed. I think you're probably right.
She's colored and she's followed.
Right.
Because people don't agree with
Exactly.
her.
What time period do you think this book probably takes place in?
Probably when segregation took place.
Maybe. I think that's a great assumption. Anything else about this book?
It's about segregation.
Yeah, it's about her feelings.
Yeah.
Probably. I think you're right. We'll find out when we read this book later in class. Pick another one.
The South doesn't agree with my brother. The heat sandpapers his skin. So that's not real. The heat sandpapers his skin is figurative.
True.
It makes it tougher and sandpapers his skin.
That's very smart. If I was now going back in time with your partner, I actually didn't think of it making it tougher, but you're absolutely right. To me, the imagery of sandpaper, I thought, he's brown skinned, and when the sun hits it, he doesn't just tan, it kind of maybe crisp, maybe it gets itchy, it gets rough, but it gets tougher. I think that, I didn't even think of that. I think that's a really beautiful way to look at that, that phrase. And that's a way of how with poetry and with a free verse novel, there are things that can be interpreted different ways by different people. And that's why discussion is so great when you're talking about something like this, which would be useful if we had time, but that's okay. Go ahead and look at the next one and read it aloud for us.
I know if I wanted to, I could write anything. Letters becoming words, words gathering meaning, becoming thoughts outside my head, becoming sentences. So she thinks she's a strong writer. So that's sort of figurative, right? Letters become words, words gather meaning, becoming thoughts inside the head, becoming sentences.
Well,
Is that?
there's a literal meaning in that, and there's a figurative, I think. Reading those words, what is literally happening to that author? What is she literally talking about? Like,
Thinking
literally.
about words.
Words. And how words do what? How letters do what?
Letters become words.
Mhm.
And words gather meaning and becoming thoughts outside my head become sentences.
So that's something that literally happens when you have a thought. Maybe it starts with letters and then it becomes words and it progresses, right? You were talking about progression earlier. So when you look at it with the lens, when you put on your figurative glasses and you look through that kind of a lens, what deeper meaning might that have? What kind of a scene does just that sentence have to it? Words. But look at the way she talks about it starts as this, and then it becomes something else.
Stairs.
Stairs.
Thinking of
Stairs.
steps.
I think of growth, progression, like you were talking about earlier. Things that are small and insignificant becoming big thoughts that can change the world. An idea can change the world, right? Yeah, they get broader, they get bigger. That's something that I think about. So, theoretically, if we had 4 groups, they would each be responsible for writing 2 possible themes that this novel might have in it, knowing that it was introduced by this poem, Dreams, and knowing all that you do now from making those predictions. Each one would be responsible for writing 2 themes and 2 possible plots, problems, characters, or settings. Some kind of something that they can predict about this book pretty solidly based on what's presented in front of you. But since it's just you, I would like you to come up with as many themes as possible and as many characters, settings, to the time period, the place, any problems that might be in here, any big ideas, any themes. So go ahead and on the back of that Dreams poem, go ahead and write as much as you can, just a brainstorm, free write kind of thing.